Nigeria's telecommunications sector, a vital cog in the nation's economic machinery, is facing unprecedented headwinds. A confluence of factors, including escalating operational costs and a persistent pricing challenge, has eroded profitability and stifled growth. In this discussion, we'll examine the industry's current predicament and explore potential strategies for sustainable development. Tajudeen Ibrahim, Director, Research and Strategy, Chapel Hill Denham, joins me for this conversation. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on the show today.
Right. Now, MTN CEO, that's Karl Toriola, is quoted as saying the industry is in a deep crisis. Is that putting it mildly or overstated?
So I think he's putting it in the right perspective because the telecommunication industry, as we speak, is suffering from major economic challenges. And those economic challenges, are severe, and they are largely speaking, creating problems for the telecommunications sector, largely because they have limited ability to respond to those challenges due to the keen interest of the government in the sector. So Karl Toriola was right and spot on around the telecommunications sector being in a major crisis as we speak.
Well, help us paint a picture of the challenges in that sector, because, you've agreed with him. So we'd like you to help us paint that picture. Let's get a glimpse of it.
So let's take a look at the sector. And, to start with, the broad economy has witnessed significant headwinds around, rising cost of doing business within the past, sort of 18 months or thereabouts. And that is largely speaking coming from Naira-driven inflation, which is local currency inflation in itself. And the second element around the cost pressure is coming from foreign currency-driven, inflation, which is in total making the cost of doing business in Nigeria to rise. One key thing that has happened across major sectors of the economy is that companies, generally speaking, have responded by increasing the prices of their products. Many companies in the manufacturing sector have responded accordingly, particularly those that are in the FMCG space. But in the telecommunications space, the result or the development is not the same because they have not been able to increase their tariff just to capture the impact of, local currency inflation and foreign currency inflation and devaluation of the exchange rates on their businesses. So this has resulted in major, weaknesses in their performance. And to start with, we have seen the prices or the cost of towers that they use to power their business. The cost of towers has gone up significantly on the local currency leg, and also on the foreign currency leg, the cost to their business has also gone up. But they have not been able to pass these increases to the end consumers because they need a regulatory approval from the government to be able to implement a tariff increase. This is reflective in their poor profitability because they have been reporting losses, particularly MTN has been recording reporting losses in the past sort of 12 months to 18 months. Airtel is also in the same pit as we speak. So those are the challenges. And to make it worse, or the worst element around it, is that the shareholders' funds of MTN Nigeria has been wiped off by the huge cost headwinds around foreign currency devaluation in terms of the exchange rates, and also the high inflation in the country, which is well over 34%. These are the challenges, and they are so limited because they have not been able to respond accordingly to those headwinds to protect their business in terms of profit margin erosion to protect their business in terms of the shareholders' funds. So, Carl,
Okay.
to my mind, is right by saying that the industry is right now in the intensive care unit as we speak.
Well, I think you even used a deeper one right there. But really, you said a lot about pricing. Is that the solution to some of the challenges we're seeing in that particular sector? I mean, you just saw the result that was displayed up there, whether it is the MTN result or even Airtel result. That sort of gave us a picture of the hemorrhage that we're seeing in that sector. I mean, looking at this particular result, I'd like you to just tell me your key takeaway from this MTN result before we continue. And if you think that pricing would play a vital role in correcting what we're seeing here.
So pricing will play a vital role. And I say that because if you take a look at the numbers being displayed on the screen, we have the revenue growing at about 33%, and we have the direct connection cost growing at well over 100%. What that means or implies is that there should have been a response by MTN in terms of price increase. I think, to my mind, they have done everything possible by ensuring that, number one, they have much larger number of subscribers by penetrating further into the rural areas of Nigeria. That is a good one for them. They are also making progress because they have invested a lot in data, on data network. So they have invested on their network to be able to drive more data traffic, and that is also playing out positively. But honestly speaking, no matter how much they have, an increase in the number of subscribers, if, for instance, the headwind around the cost of towers is not addressed by, some adjustments in prices, it will not be enough. So all these increases in the number of to protect their profit margin, from being negative. And that is why MTN made attempt, last week, they announced that they have been able to speak with IHS, to renegotiate their towers agreement with them. So what that means is that they have now put a cap on the repricing of towers on a quarterly basis in terms of the consumer price index on the local currency front. On the foreign currency front, they have also reduced the escalation of the consumer price index in terms of the US dollars, cost element of their towers agreement. So what this implies is that they have brought down the costs, of the towers to their business, so that the impact of the devaluation of the currency that we have seen so far since last year will be limited. But all those elements put in place are not the only challenge. The other challenge for them is that they have dollar exposure in terms of letters of credit. All those letters of credit were obtained when the exchange rate was around 465 naira to a dollar. Now we're talking about over $1,500 naira to a dollar. So which means that they are incurring huge exchange loss. And that huge exchange loss is what threw their performance into a big loss of over 500 billion naira loss as at the first half of this year. There is no way they can manage all those elements together without having the opportunity to implement some price increase. They have stretched the business, to my mind.
Let me come in here because I need to come in here. We have just 2 minutes to go, right? I like what you're talking about price, but Nigerians do not want to hear price increase. Nigerians will tell you that when they recharge maybe 10,000 naira data, what they get at the end of the day finishes before they even say hello. I mean, that's on the one hand, and I guess that's why regulators are trying to protect, the consumers and all of those. But we get the argument of these operators talking about how inflation and naira depreciation has dealt a heavy blow to their profitability. Now, let's go to Airtel. For AirtelAfrica, strong fundamentals and focused execution sort of continue to support operating performance despite the challenging macroeconomic environment. What measures do you think Airtel can take to offset the negative effects of currency fluctuations, especially in Nigeria? Because when you look at AirtelAfrica, we would see that Nigeria actually dealt it a heavy blow. Let's close on that in 30 seconds.
To close on that, one key takeaway for me is that AirtelAfrica is equally affected. The only upside for them is that they operate in other 13 countries, making 14 countries in total when you add Nigeria. So there is that, opportunity for them to benefit from, currency strength in other African countries. Nevertheless, the Nigerian business in their overall business has diminished when you look at it in dollar terms. And what this means is that, the telecom industry has to generally protected. The other industries are benefiting by implementing price increases. If we want more value as consumers, we should be ready to pay more. It is just like the power sector, scenario. If you want to enjoy power, pay more. Then it will be stable over time. The same thing applies to telecoms, in my view.
Okay, Tajudeen Ibrahim, Director, Research and Strategy, Chapel Hill Denham. Thank you for your thoughts, as always, on the show today.
Thank you for having me.